People who work for airlines, what are secrets passengers don't know? When flying overseas, there are generally no systems tracking the movement of your aircraft for several thousand miles. That is how they go missing. People fake needing a wheelchair to gain boarding priority. 10 wheelchairs get on and only one person needs it getting off. We call them miracle flights. If you checked your dog, there's about a 30% chance it's terrified before it even gets on the plane. Who knows how scared it gets during the actual flight? Backroom agents will usually try to comfort a scared animal, but all we can really do is talk to it, so if you write your pet's name on their carrier, it usually helps a lot. I've never seen a cat who was scared in the back room. Cats don't give a frick. Had to fly an owl once. They had to drug the crap out of it first. It was sad. That there's a huge list of things that can be missing from the aircraft while still being allowed to fly. True. It's called a minimum equipment list, MEL. Counterintuitively, it's a list of what can be broken on the aircraft while it still remains airworthy. It should be noted that the operational limits of the aircraft are altered to respond to broken parts. For instance, if certain lights are broken, the aircraft is restricted to daytime use. You know how all the other armrests can be raised except for the one next to the aisle? Turns out that one can be raised as well via a small button in a divot on the underside of the armrest. Useful if you want to spread out a bit more, though some flight attendants may tell you to put it back in place. That's a good way to get a sore elbow knee. If you check a skateboard by just slapping a sticker on it, it will get ridden or used as a dolly. Might check my skateboard just to entertain the baggage dudes. 2 pilots are served different meals and cannot share. This is done in case of food poisoning. Yes, I remember. I had the lasagna. Paramedic here. If you switch on your alarm lights on the ambulance while being on the inner field of the airport, because, well, you just get there sometimes, they will totally shut down all incoming and outgoing flights until they know exactly what's going on. My buddy learned this the hard way. Needless to say, people got mad at him. Nothing says you fricked up like being the subject of an FAA incident report. I'm an outstation mechanic for multiple airlines. I cover all flights at a major US city airport, by myself. Where to start? If your flight has a maintenance delay and there is no on-station mechanics for that carrier, I get called. If it's a quick fix, I fix it. If not, we check to see if it can be deferred to get fixed later. Either way, most of your delay is spent waiting on me to do all the paperwork to clear the aircraft or for me to finish the other 7 calls I'm out on to get to your plane. There is also constant pressure on both me and the pilots to clear fly aircraft that have some fairly significant problems. I have airlines try to get me to sell some pretty sketchy stuff to the pilots to get them to fly and avoid a costly delay. I have no problems telling a pilot to call his controller's dispatchers and tell them to frick off if I'm not comfortable with whatever concoction of deferral action I was asked to perform. Don't get me wrong, the airlines would never willingly fly an unsafe aircraft. But if there is, say, an engine vibration that is just right at a C hair under the limit, they will fly it. If the oil is super low but servicing it will cause a delay, service it at the next stop. If the pilot encounters something at altitude that I can't duplicate on the ground, sign it off and see if it happens again. Those are the ones I usually push back on depending what it is. Also, if you have to get out of your seat so a mechanic can fix something, don't be about it. I get harassed all the time by passengers even though my sole purpose is to get them in the air. Besides, I tell gate agents all the time not to load packs until I get out there, but they never listen, so go be at them. This is turning into a soapbox, so I will stop. Not a secret, just common sense. The reason some bags miss their flight or get misrouted is because passengers don't remove old tags. It confuses handlers as well as the conveyor belt scanners. I see it happen all the time. I used to work for a warehouse that supplied a certain airline with items. The headsets that are given to you are not new. Despite being wrapped up, they are taken off the flight, cleaned, and then packaged again. Flight attendants have a list of who is who and what seat they are in, as well as what level of frequent flyer they happen to be, or if they are employees or family and friends tickets. This is why you will see them being rude to someone or bending over backwards for jerks. Flights are routinely overbooked because there's an estimate per route of what percentage of people tend to miss the flight. So if you don't have a seat assignment, you might not get on, which is why they ask for volunteers. If you are a frequent flyer and know the busy times and flights, you could volunteer all day from every flight going to a hub and make $1,000 in credit. Invest in quality luggage. You are the only one that handles your bag with care. Your bag is going to take a beating in the system. Employees and their families get ID tickets. It is for industry discount, which means they only pay taxes and fees and nothing for the actual ticket. The airlines basically lets them fly for free, and not just with their own airline, but with every airline in any alliance. The tickets are standby tickets, so you're not guaranteed to get on board, but you get a seat more often than not. The family members can travel on these tickets without the employee. My dad worked for an airline in Star Alliance, so I used to get free tickets with airlines in One World and SkyTeam as well as Star Alliance. I usually traveled in business class, all around the world. A return trip between Europe and Japan was something like $200 in business class, and maybe $50 in economy. I don't get any perks anymore, as it was only valid until I turned 25. I enjoyed this perk until I turned 25, too, in Germany, for trains. Yeah, well. Sometimes your pilot can be on food stamps because they only make $19K. Baggage handlers see hundreds of bags a day. No bag is treated special, unless it is obvious. Even then, depending on the person, sometimes they're not, which is rare. Bags are not intentionally harmed. They are, however, intentionally thrown, slid, jostled, stacked under hundreds of pounds of other bags, and exposed to the elements because that is the nature of the job. You can safely assume that your bag is touched and handled by at least 7-8 people per flight segment, if you are connecting at least 10 different people, not including tsar. Sometimes, the vehicle that fills the potable water for washing hands and making coffee is parked next to the vehicle that is used to dump the shitters and fill the blue juice for the labs. They're not supposed to. Sometimes, they're parked at a distance from each other, which is policy, yet the guy who is filling the water is using gloves that he hasn't changed in over 2 years. The most power you could probably wield is Twitter. The employee in front of you has so little power to actually remedy tough situations. Baggage handlers are usually short-staffed. As well, customer service agents are usually limited in their options. Also, it would help us get a message to higher ups because our work is not being supported as it should be. Heck, I'd even recommend asking an employee about the problem and say something like, if I were to take my complaint to Twitter, how could I phrase it in a way that would help you too? You get more customer protections buying directly from the airline. All those third-party travel sites are owned by the same company, and you lose a lot of the right afforded to you in the airline's contract of carriage. If you're nice to people, they'll be nice back to you. My uncle is in the hospital dying right now, and my cousin had to fly here to Houston from Arizona yesterday. She was scheduled to come in at 9:30 p.m. and he might not have made it that long. She called the airline, told them she needed to see her dad, and they got her on the next flight out so she could see her dad for a few hours. When the drink card is coming through, you can ask for a full can of pop instead of the tiny little cup filled with mostly ice. Not particularly a secret, but one time I was upgraded to business class on a plane that was delayed for maintenance. Just settling into my middle row aisle seat up at the movie screen bulkhead when a hatch in the floor of the cabin right at my feet flipped open and the maintenance engineer climbed up. He had a clipboard of paperwork for the pilot to sign, then climbed back into his hole, tipping his hat to the passengers before closing the hatch over his head. If you look for it, you can see a recessed pull ring in the cabin floor in front of the first row seats behind cockpit. 757 wide body, I think. I work revenue management for an airline. On average, the cheapest time to buy a ticket is Tuesday afternoon. The cheapest time to fly is Tuesday, Wednesday, or Saturday. This applies to US flights in my experience. Aerospace fastener production here. Nobody there asks what is actually holding the plane together. Don't worry about it. The coffee is absolutely disgusting because no one washes the container that goes out every morning. The station agents who get paid way too little don't give a crap about cleaning it. I certainly didn't when I worked for AA. Also, because we weren't given the proper supplies to clean it. We pretty much just rinsed it out and dumped coffee into it. Be nice to the ticket agent and they will pretty much always let you get away with overweight bags. If you were funny, I'd even not charge you for bags. My partner worked for Delta for about 4 years as one of the guys who loads and unloads your luggage and waves wands. Nothing is safe in those bags. They pop open all the time and your crap just gets haphazardly shoved back in. They get tossed around like volleyballs. Tsa is a lie. A lot of decisions about boarding or switching flights, are at employees' discretion. Worked on military aircraft, but it's something I've noticed pretty universal about jet engines in general. You have your auxiliary engine that runs while the aircraft is parked, providing power, hydraulics, AC, etc. while you're at the terminal. When getting ready to depart, you turn on your main engines. It takes a lot of power to get them started. As such, most of the auxiliary power goes to starting the engines. This is the point where usually you may see the lights flicker, and you will hear the whine of the main engine start up. The environmental control unit, or whatever they want to call it, stops cycling air during this start sequence. Without fail, if you watch for it, numerous hands will stick up and check or adjust the air conditioning vents as this happens. The air will kick back on when the engines are up and running. As shown in some movies like Executive Decision and Passenger 57, there is a secret hatch on every plane that allows people to travel freely throughout the aircraft. Also, Wade Boggs once drank 50 beers on a cross-country flight and then absolutely destroyed the Seattle Mariners the next day. May he rest in peace. Worked at multiple airports as a consultant, and this is common at almost all I've worked at. Mechanics love to take their coffee breaks right behind the security checkpoint. This is where you will see women in a rush with their outermost garments off and bending over to put their shoes back on. The jackpots are passengers that didn't know a sweater or hoodie they are wearing had to come off until they are told to remove it by the tsar, so they have very little underneath. I wasn't part of this, so don't downvote me, just telling the tales of the trade. Not an airport. I worked at a theme park in Florida. There was a water ride where ladies would often get their blouses splashed with water. There was a bridge over a part of the ride where you could look straight down as the riders went by. It was a very popular place for male employees to stop and look over the rail of the bridge for a few minutes. People who work for airlines. What are secrets passengers don't know? I am an aircraft fueler. One thing I cannot stress enough is how your pets are treated. While your airline will take the best possible actions, some things cannot be avoided, like the noise on the ramp. I cannot stand out there without ear protection, and imagine your pet sitting out there on the ramp waiting to be loaded onto the plane being exposed to the same amount of noise I am. Please people, think twice before flying your pets. Nice. Most comments make you learn things that are interesting but with no actual lesson. Your comment may save a few pets from that. Aerospace fastener production here. Nobody ever asks what is actually holding the plane together. Don't worry about it. Duct tape and good wishes. If you give us flight attendants your magazines, we will love you. When a plane is landing at night, they dim the interior lights in case you need to evacuate upon landing. Your eyes are already adjusted to the darkness so you'll be able to see better once outside the plane. I always thought it was so you'd fall asleep just as the ground violently comes up to meet you. Women, if you pack a toy in your bag, take the batteries out, because if I'm loading your bag, and I hear it vibrating I have to tell my lead. Then my lead has to come pull you off the aircraft and you have to open your bag and turn off your toy in front of a bunch of giggling grown-ass men. When you experience a hard landing in bad weather, it wasn't because of a lack of pilot skills, but it is in fact intentional. If the runway is covered in water, the airplane has to touch down hard in order to puncture the water layer and prevent aquaplaning. Mobile electronic devices won't really bring an airplane down, but they can be really annoying to pilots. Just imagine sitting in the flight deck descending to your destination and hearing the interference of a 100+ cell phones picking up a signal. I have missed a clearance or two that way. The air you breathe on an airplane is actually compressed air taken from the engines. A large portion, 25% to 50%, is blown in the flight deck. The rest is for the passengers. The air leaves the airplane via a small hole in the back of the fuselage. The captain has almost limitless authority when the doors are closed. He is allowed to arrest people, write fines and even take the will of a dying passenger. At most airlines the only difference between the captain and the co-pilot is their rank. They divide the workload fairly and switch the roles of pilot flying and pilot non-flying each flight. The air inside the jet engine of an airplane is hotter than the melting point of any component of the engine. But thankfully, due to amazing engineering, the components themselves don't get to that temperature. My dad's been an airline pilot for almost 20 years, and apparently planes get struck by lightning all the time. Also, if a passenger is causing a scene in the jetway, he can refuse to let them on and take off without them. The tail rotor diameter of a Robinson A-22 helicopter is 3 feet 6 inches. This is because that was as wide as Frank Robinson's kitchen oven would go, where he had to bake the first rotor. It hasn't been changed. Similarly, the longest wing on a standard commercial jet is limited by the radius of curvature of the tunnels the trains carrying said wings have to pass through in shipping, the 737-900, particularly. I was a ramp agent for Delta. A lot of freight gets shipped on commercial flights. One of these items were always called HR on the radios. HR was an abbreviation for human remains. Some people die far away from where they want to get buried. They're packed in wood-framed boxes, so you would never know what was inside except by the strange shape of them. They were a bee to handle. People wait a bit, add a casket and shipping container, and you're looking at anywhere from 250-400 pounds. Also, the bin doors tend to be pretty narrow. Wrestling these things out of the plane was always a giant pain in the ass. HR in the middle bin of a Mad Dog, MD-90. Frick that. I used to be an aircraft mechanic. You'll be amazed at what you don't really need to make a plane fly. You are able to unlock airplane lavatories from the outside. There is usually a lock mechanism concealed behind the no smoking badge on the door. Just lift the flap up and slide the bolt to unlock. Now I can open the door on people pooping in a stall smaller than a phone booth while I'm surrounded by people. Thanks, guy. Some airlines don't pay pilots or flight attendants for flights that cancel, which doesn't sound so bad until you start thinking about the safety implications of it. A little short on the rent this month? Then I don't see that hydraulic leak. I can't afford to have the flight cancel. Child needs to see the doctor. Maybe I don't report the torn up carpet that you might trip on in an evacuation, because carpet takes too long to replace, so the flight would cancel. Not saying this happens all the time, because most crews are true professionals and can put their job ahead of their paycheck, but it happens enough to give you the goosebumps. Throw in some seriously low pay, sub $20k a year for men of first year pilots, and you've got a subtle incentive to overlook safety issues. I have a friend who's a commercial pilot. Around 5 years ago he was doing a flight from LA to Tokyo when an anonymous caller phoned in a bomb threat while they were over the middle of the Pacific. Apparently they have procedures for this kind of thing, but there was nothing anyone could do in this situation except stay calm and not alert the passengers, obviously. He said for the rest of the flight every bump of turbulence made his adrenaline spike. They took this case especially seriously because there was a group of foreign dignitaries sitting in the first class cabin. In situations like this, they radio back and everyone on board gets their name cross-checked for links to terrorism and prior convictions. It comes back as a high level, medium or no threat. Source: friend's dad is a pilot. You can bring mini bottles of liquor through TSA. If you want to save some dough but still booze a mile high, bring a few along. I miss the days of being able to bring handles of booze through security. Passenger weighing in: if you have a musical instrument, never check IT. Take it to the gate with you. If they don't have room on the plane, they can gate check it and put it on last. When you deboard on your next stop, it will be waiting for you as soon as you exit the plane. P.S. I have never had a bad experience doing this. Every flight attendant I've done this with has been more than accommodating. United breaks guitars. Aluminium, unlike steel, doesn't have a lower stress limit for fatigue cracking. In layman's terms, this means that whenever you apply a load to it, it cracks. Planes are designed so that under normal loads the cracks are microscopic, but they'll always be there and they grow with repeated stress cycles, that is. Every time the plane is flown the cracks grow. Maintenance crews are responsible for knowing where they are on each individual plane and tracking their growth. Source is my mechanical engineering professor from college days. Bring an unopened bag of or box of chocolates for the flight crew, especially long flights. They'll treat you like a king for the whole flight. My sister is a flight attendant. She says after she tells everyone to turn off all electronics, she goes to the back and pulls out her phone and starts texting. If you are a US citizen entering the US at passport control, and you see that the line for foreigners is shorter than the one for US citizens, you can go through it. Source: I said hi to the security lady directing us. She suddenly became friendly and she told me so. Armrests, island window seat. Run your hand along the underside of the armrest, just shy of the joint. You'll feel a button. Push it, and it will lift up. Adds a ton of room to the window seat and makes getting out of the aisle a hell of a lot easier. Airlines barely make any money on 40 billion of revenue, less than 1 billion in profit. You may complain about ticket prices, but not a lot of profit is being made. On some 747s, Air France and possibly others, the upper deck economy class seats have a little extra room and storage. On the window seats, they have a tiny bit more legroom too, if I recall correctly. Air France used to block these off for picking seats ahead of time unless you have a higher tier card. If you check in a bit early you can get them. It's so probably been mentioned, but seatguru.com is the resource for checking seats for whatever steel you're flying on. I am a commercial aircraft fueler. At my airport we get a lot of small jets. CRJ 200,700,900, ERJ 145, 737s, MD 88, 95, DC 9. One of the main things as a fueler is having to overwing a plane. We do that when the single point on the plane is in up and have to pump 600,1000 gallons of jet into the plane. This is when you see us, one on each side, take a small fuel pump, usually the ones you put in your car, and balance out the fuel on each side. It's a long process, usually 2 gallons sec. Fueling is labor intensive but nowhere near as bad as the ramp agents. I also was a ramp agent for United, and most any ramp agent will tell you, don't buy expensive luggage. When your bag weighs 30-40 pounds and I have 50-100 bags coming to me at once, I can't treat yours with love and care that you would like. They usually want small jets out in 20 minutes. This includes scanning bags, downloading, dropping off, scanning new bags for departure and loading and pushing back. Another tidbit, if you are pushed back and sitting there, it's because either your wheels up got pushed back or you're delayed. Pilots don't get paid when brakes are set. They get paid pilot pay when the brakes are released. You can only be pushed away and sitting there waiting to leave for 2 hours. After that you return to the gate, and this way you can take care of business. Your flight will get delayed or cancelled if your coffee pot is broke or in up. Planes break. It sucks but respect it. The airlines care very much about safety. They will ground your plane for the smallest issue. I have seen a plane cancelled because the lave toilet was clogged. But at the end of the day you should be thankful. First time poster, but I love my job and planes and decided to give some insight. Not airline secret but airport. You know that first class line at security? Yeah, that's an airline thing, not TSA. Economy passenger? TSA doesn't care. Step right up. Dang, I hope this is true, because I don't want to go into that line only to be turned away and have to do a walk of shame to join the proletariat in the line of underachievers. Flight attendant. Pilots don't fix the plane, they fly it. If it's major, they call maintenance. Stop asking the pilots to just fix the plane. Sometimes it takes a while. I'm sorry, it sucks. Deal with it. My day is long. So goddamn long. Please be nice. I see hundreds of people in a day. If I'm abrupt with you in any way, I apologize. I'm trying to 1. Expedite the boarding process so we can leave on time. 2. I'm running on very little sleep and I'm cranky. 3. I've dealt with too many buttholes and or delays that day and my spirit is utterly crushed. You'll rarely see me upset, but many other FARs are. I am sorry, they don't love their job like I do. We only get paid when the main cabin door is closed. I make less than 20k a year. This is common. I know that you know how to put on a seatbelt. I still have to do a safety demo. It's a liability issue. Don't treat me like a waitress. I'm not. I get paid less and my hours are longer, and the job involves much more than serving you a drink and some peanuts. I personally don't care if you use your electronic devices. However, don't be talking on your phone during taxi. If I can't see your phone, I don't care if you're playing Angry Birds. We're not going to crash. Many airlines have changed their rules, but mine has not, and I have to enforce the rules. People vent their frustrations about flying to me. It's hard being bitched at knowing you caused none of the problems. Believe me, it's in our best interest to keep you happy. Why would we want otherwise? The FAA makes the rules, not your flight crew. We're just the crew. Every decision comes from above. Remember that. Be nice. Fast food workers of Reddit. What should we not order at your restaurant? Why not? Former Starbucks worker here. Please don't order anything off the secret menu. It doesn't exist. If you want a Snickerdoodle, Nutella, or Captain Crunch Frappuccino, or whatever other overly sugary thing someone has since come out with, know the base drink and the modifications, and order that. If you just say the name, it's up to the barista to come up with what's in the drink, and it may not be what the last barista you ordered from put in there. The only popular place with a secret menu is probably In-N-Out, and it's not that secret. I've worked at 4 restaurants in my life, and lemons and ice are by far the most disgusting things you can get. Try some of our homemade lemon iced tea. It's like devil pee. Don't confuse crappy restaurants with crappy management with fast food. A well-run McDonald's will have spotless food, fresh products up constantly and everything cleaned routinely. A poorly run one will be god-awful and disgusting. But really though, those lemons have been sitting out all day. Stop ordering them. Former bartender. Don't eat the olives on the bar. Just don't. The flu distribution bowl. Panera pasta. It's all microwaved. This includes mac and cheese, smoothies, frozen drinks, nasty base crap that smells and it's sticky. Cupcakes, coffee cakes all come frozen. Best items are the real sandwich salads. Real ingredients and usually fresh. Former Panera worker. Can confirm. Mac and cheese is nasty. Everything else is decent. I'd say you're being charged too much for the salads for the quality. Soups are pre-made and frozen. Pananas and sandwiches and bread are good though. Whatever you do, don't order the steak and blue cheese salad or the lobster sandwich. Worked at Subway 2010 to 2012. Only thing I have to say is that tuna and seafood package used to have a label on it that said that it didn't contain dolphin or turtles in the meat. Then that label suddenly disappeared in 2012. So that's why it's so good. Milkshakes at Jack in the Box. If you're allergic to fruit, we do not clean the mixer very well, and it's used for smoothies and milkshakes. Like, we're told to just half butt it. In the training video, it's freaking ridiculous. Be honest, did the creepy pointy-nosed mascot appear in the training video? I used to work in a baseball park concession stand. The short answer is not to order anything, but if you absolutely have to buy something, don't buy the hot dogs. Do not buy the hot dogs. They made it out of the package okay, and might even have been edible after we finished grilling them, and then they went into the water. We kept 3 pans of water at the back of the grill. That held the hot dogs. Any hot dogs left at the end of the day went back into the fridge, and came out again the next day. Me and the other cook put our feet down on throwing out the water and old hot dogs after 2 full days, but the management didn't want to let us. Oh, and our freezer broke, so all the meat got stored in the ice bin, and our management always told us when the surprise health inspections were gonna show up, usually a week or so in advance. Well, they're not called dirty water dogs for nothing. I feel alone in the mentality that as long as it tastes good and it doesn't mess up my insides too bad, I really don't care how it was made. That's how I feel about the they allow X amount of bugs in chocolate bars. It doesn't mess me up on taste or on health, so it's whatever. Sonic is actually a really clean place. Ice machine cleaned daily. Oil replaced daily. Our burgers seem to be good quality. We grill them and put them in bins. If they've been sitting for like 30 minutes we just threw them out. The chicken on the other hand, well, First of all, isn't real true chicken, and it sits for much longer BC of lack of orders and lack of stocked up chicken in general. All the fries and popcorn chicken are prepared well. The only thing along those lines is the corn dogs. You could certainly get one that really isn't fresh. Our hot dogs are prepared on one of the roller things, and you won't get one that has been sitting for more than 20 minutes BC. They just burn up. Former Little Caesars manager here. Some franchises are different, but I wouldn't order any crazy bread, jalapeno bread, or Italian bread. The crap they dress it without the oven is not butter. It's some nasty imitation that comes in a huge bottle and does not need to be refrigerated. Also, hot and readies and chicken wings have been known to sit in the warmer for hours at a time until sold. As Steve Brule says, for your health. $5 for pizza that tastes decent. Can't really complain when you're poor and want pizza. Taco John's reporting for all you Midwesterners. I would steer clear of the beans, at least outside of peak hours, because they sit on the hot table for a long time, and when they dry out, just add water. Everything else is pretty solid though. Worked there a couple years back in 2007 to 2009 and still love going back to get my fix. The only thing I've ordered there is 6-pack and a pound. I love those goddamn Olays, man. Order what you want at Five Guys. The bacon sits out, but it's not like they're trying to hide it. Everyone can see the bacon sitting there. Just know that at least 2 of the managers steal the pickle jars for making. I used to work at McDonald's. If you order, especially chicken nuggets, just ask for them fresh. Otherwise they've been just sitting in their container in the heat. They have a timer, but 9/10 times when that timer goes off, people just reset the timer instead of making new ones. This could go on until all the nuggets are sold. Control plus F in and out. Phew. As a former in and out employee, I will vouch for their procedures and product 100%. They don't cut corners, have their own QA inspection team, and nothing is ever frozen. It's seriously good quality for fast food. I once worked at Tim Hortons. Let's see. It's usually not a good idea to buy donuts late at night. They're made early in the morning and are usually stale by that time. Don't order a mocha with no whipped cream. It will be more expensive than if you order a half coffee, half hot chocolate, and they are literally the same thing. Only the latter is the price of a coffee. There has been some changes to the menu in the last 4 years, but I would order anything from Wendy's except for baked potatoes. Only because they're hit and miss. You never know how fresh the potato will be. I always order baked potatoes. I love baked potatoes, and Wendy's is the only place in the industry to get them quickly and without having to do it yourself. Worked at KFC for 4 years. The barbecue sandwich is actually made from chicken too old and stale to give to the homeless shelters, so they soak it in barbecue sauce until it can be pulled, and then they keep it on the heater for a month. I still order it through. I knew there was something off about KFC. I work for McDonald's and make sure everyone that matters to me never orders anything that comes out of the McCafe machine, as these are routinely neglected in practically all the McDonald's. Not only are staff not properly trained in its cleaning and maintenance, at almost every McDonald's I've had experience with, the managers in charge of training them don't know frick all either. There is a compartment that catches the coffee espresso grounds, and when you take it out there is a hole that gives you access to the inside of the machine. Very dark. Can't be taken apart without someone specialized in servicing it coming it, and normally needs special brushes to be cleaned. I've been to a couple different McDonald's and have never seen anyone have the proper ones. A couple of times I stuck my hand in the machine to pull out a literal fistful of black soot to show to the managers that it's not in proper condition, and nothing has come of it. The insides are caked with it. The lines where the product comes out as well. Also, I'm not sure about all places, but the McDonald's I'm at now also has us cleaning the smoothie machine with fricking glass cleaner. I work nights, so unless I really hate the person coming in, I try to play it off like these machines are in their automatic cleaning cycles and can't be used, but really I can't morally justify serving people this dangerously crappy stuff. TLDR. All McCafe beverages run through a horrifically dirty machine. We're talking 5+ inches of uncleaned liquid balls making up its inside parts, and the smoothies have glass cleaner in them. I work at a McDonald's in Ontario, and our McCafe machine is thoroughly cleaned every night. We have a cleaning kit for it, and every night the first thing the overnight manager does is clean the cafe machine. It takes them a solid 30-45 minutes as well, so you know it's done right. Olive Garden complimentary salad. It's the only thing in our restaurant that comes 95% pre-made, with the exception being the tomatoes, which are cut at 8:30 am to 9 am and are expected to last all day. Everything is technically refrigerated, but the fridge is always left open, since we go through salad so fast. Chicken anything. We go through chicken really fast, so if a particular kind isn't thawing fast enough in the walk-in, we leave a whole tray of it sitting underneath an oven. Raised oven, it's not on the floor, sometimes up to 3 hours. Fried anything. I don't know how often the frying oil is changed, but judging by the color, ugh, I know it smells rancid. I don't know which dishes this comes with, but the potato and pepper mixture, which is fried, will often have pieces of pepper in it that have started to rot. Not growing mold rotten, but definitely soft discolored rotten. I don't do this, but I know every other prep cook at my location does. On the other hand, all of our breadsticks are made no more than 15 minutes before you consume them and kept warm until your waiter picks them up. They're also 140 calories each, without butter, but hey, what you gonna do? All of our soups are quite fresh, and all of the vegetables in them are fresh. 90% of them have been cut that same day. Sauces like pesto, Toscano tomato, garlic hummus and our aioli will always be quite fresh. The pesto and all of our tomato sauces son marinara sauce are made from scratch in-house. The breaded eggplant will always be the freshest thing on the menu. It's the only item I'm aware of that must be used the same day it's made. Everything else can be kept in the walk-in anywhere from 2-7 days. Don't worry, the only item that's kept for 7 days is our seasoned roasting oil. So what you're saying is don't go to Olive Garden. Almost every fast food restaurant is independently operated as a franchise. Take every one of these answers with a grain of salt. Every Redditor who works at Chipotle has the same consensus. Don't order the quesarito. I've never ordered it and it never seemed appealing to me to begin with, but apparently when customers order them, every employee in the restaurant hates you. The frick is a quesarito? I used to work at a restaurant. The worst things you could order were generally anything that involved a lot of being touched by hands. Sandwiches, salads, etc. Hygiene wasn't enforced as much as it should be, and we didn't often get the time to regularly clean our hands anyway. This went for both the waitresses and the chef. The worst things you could order were generally anything that involved a lot of being touched by hands. Note to self, don't order Arp's mom. What is with the aversion to food prepared by bare hands? I used to feel this way until I started working in restaurants. I honestly feel that gloves can be just as bad as bare hands because you end up having at least one cook per shift that doesn't change their gloves ever and totally defeats the purpose of wearing them in the first place. From my experiences, the tuna and egg salad at Subway is just bagged tuna eggs and a crap ton of mayo to make it soft. So if you're ordering it, don't bother asking for mayo at the end, which everyone always does. The mayo in that stuff is insane, and when people add mayo, it's hard to even do. I had one guy that kept going, more. I was like, dude, this is not a good idea, and then he sat there and ate it with all the mayo squeezing out. It makes me cringe to think about. I worked at Chick-fil-A. Almost all of the food is great and prepared properly, and on that day, the ice machines are cleaned every day. The refrigerators that house the chicken at least once a week. And even the spouts that the soft drinks come out of are sanitized daily. The cookers and fry machines were moved once a week to clean behind and under them to make sure pests had nothing to munch on. The lemonade is handmade. Fresh squeezed lemons in the juicer in the back, as is the tea. It's actually brewed. Then I have worked at a fine dining restaurant, Ruth's Chris. The ice machine was never washed for the year I was there. Lemons were picked up and put in glasses by the unwashed hands of servers and bussers. And the kitchen would leave stuff out overnight without putting it in the frig, then use it the next day. Lemon juice and baking soda can make anything smell good again. Some of the chefs here even told me that this was one of the cleaner restaurants they had worked at. Note to self, don't eat at Chinese restaurants. If anyone badmouths Taco Bell, I will tactfully insult your mother, then seduce your father and destroy your family. And this, my friends, is the thread stoner defending the munchies. I worked at Einstein's bagel place, which is basically fast food. Don't order anything with eggs. They aren't real eggs, and if business is slow they could have been sitting in a container for hours after they are microwaved. Don't order anything with eggs. They aren't real eggs. Well then what are? You know what? Never mind. Former kitchen worker for a grocery store restaurant. Be wary of that type of restaurant. When the meat department pulls meat off the shelf that's out of date and needs to be thrown away, they take it to the kitchen and let them use it. I've seen this done with pork chops, chicken, ground beef, and fish. The worst is the fish and chicken. The place I'm talking about is currently being sued for allegedly giving some guy salmonella. And I read a case file where one of our kitchens was caught rinsing bad chicken in bleach. Seriously, cooking it and serving it to people 10 or so years ago. I've tried to do the mental gymnastics necessary to rationalize putting chicken in bleach, but I just can't. I used to work at a pizza grinder's place called Mancino's in Michigan. They have like 75 stores around here. Pretty small for a franchise. Anyway, they are super careful about cleanliness. The guy that got hired about a week before me got sent home early one day for not washing his hands after a smoke break. They threw out the food he touched. Then he did it again, and he was fired on the spot. I almost had money taken out of my check for sneezing near an open container of green peppers that we had to throw away, until the owner found out. The manager told me to come, and despite having bad allergies that day, I've never seen a place so goddamned clean. To be honest, I'm glad my job was to make food and occasionally carry heavy stuff, cause the two ladies who cleaned basically did that their entire 6-hour shifts every day, and it looked hard. The dishes were washed with real dish soap, not the cheap stuff my old Taco Bell used. The tables and chairs and door handles were all bleached every night and Lysoled about 3 times a day. All the food stuff was kept pretty much sterile until it was ready to put together and put in the oven immediately. Even the cooler and freezer got emptied and cleaned once a month. Crazy clean place. Anyway, don't ever eat there. The founder is literally a Nazi. McDonald's. The egg white delight is just as unhealthy, if not more so, than the regular round eggs. The amount of butter, at least in my store, sprayed on the grill must up the calorie and fat count like crazy. I've heard a cook say, shouldn't have come to McDonald's if you're trying to lose weight while soaking the inside of the egg white ring with layer upon layer of butter. Also, I'd recommend a regular round egg any day. The liquid eggs for the scrambled and egg whites are a chemical shitstorm. At least the round egg is the real deal. Cook, worked there years ago, literally just pressing buttons. Control FMOS. Oh, okay, good. Rather than not ordering specific items, I would recommend all customers do the following. Eyeball the floors and tables when you come in. If they are filthy, that is probably the standard throughout the restaurant. B. Watch what the person who takes your money does right after finishing your order and touching your dirty, filthy, germy money. Do they wash their hands, touch your silverware, put on gloves without washing their hands? C. Eyeball the maca lines, the stainless steel surfaces on which hot cold food is prepared. Is there sauce and meat and crap all over that sucker? Or has it clearly been wiped down recently, with only some stray lettuce? D. Is your food hot and fresh? If it is not, call and complain. There are rules in fast food about holding times of hot food, and if they are not being followed, the only way the manager has of knowing is if the customer complains, especially at nighttime, when unpredictable business and lack of upper management makes food purchasing a little sketchier. These things should help you know if you should eat food prepared there or not. However, if your fast food workers look clearly frizzled and have 7 million customers and frick up your order even though they're trying hard not to, be kind and just let them know politely so they can replace it. They're not trying to frick you over. There's just no way to predict sudden rushes. Dunkin' Donuts here. The donuts are fine, but don't order the sandwiches. The tuna chicken is scooped out of a little container. I don't even know what's in it. The eggs come pre-cooked and look disgusting. Donuts equals good. Sandwiches equals you're nuts, stoned, or hammered. In and out employee here. Everything is made fresh daily and we have strict rules making sure our burgers and fries are of the highest quality. If a fry sits out for more than 5 minutes we have to throw it away. Nothing comes to mind that you should avoid. Safe to say In-N-Out is my favorite fast food restaurant. As a former MC Donald's worker who took the drive-thru orders, please place your order at the appropriate place. It screws up the system if you breeze right up past the speaker box and or the first window. And the usual, don't be a crappy person. MC Donald's crew members are humans who have to deal with bad management and work drama just like everyone else. I work at Chick-fil-A and honestly pretty much everything is pretty good. We keep the back super clean, gloves and all that fun stuff to keep from contaminating. Only thing I would be iffy on is the chicken salad sandwich. We cool some of the chicken once its whole time is up and debread it and use it in the chicken salad. But other than that, not anything really bad or gross. Ugh. Okay, there are plenty of comments here about dirty ice buckets and machines. The horror that is involved with lemons and other kitchen tomfoolery that occurs from smallest to greatest whenever people don't get paid enough to give a crap about their work. But I would like to point out to those of you who feel the appropriate response is to use subterfuge, change instructions mid-make, request special subtractions after the fact, that in all likelihood, you're putting someone in a position where it is much easier to simply pick through your already prepared food and remove the offending ingredient. These are not bad people, just workers perhaps inured by endless dickishness perpetrated by people who are out to nitpick every last thing, most in service of getting a discount or free product. The sad thing is that this happens entirely more often at fast food joints, where no one is making enough to give a crap, and corporations have all but stopped caring about even the most blatant scammery. It's simply easier to dish up the freebies to one and all who be, and save the company from putting out fires on social media fronts. I recall one incident where a frequent flyer would get free and discounted food on a regular basis. Finally, they tired of her antics, and requested she not return. So she began telling stories of blatant racism, how she was singled out, then agitated others to go in the store and start trouble, attack workers. The store ended up with security guards after violence and vandalism. I found out about it when she started a social media campaign for justice, and a church group got involved. Then the media took interest and discovered her long history of fuckery, her constant criminal charges, and blatant attempts to damage the business out of revenge for being denied her free dollar treats. Even then, there were people willing to back her up, quack about rights, and agitate. The guy who posted on Reddit about heavily salting a dish before returning it to be remade because of an allergen, so you could ensure it didn't just get reused, had the right idea. Make your needs known, and then carefully examine your purchase before consuming it. If there is a problem, let him know, preferably without screaming or spitting. But playing mystery meal is stupid and childish. Knock that crap off. What is a dirty little or big secret about an industry that you have worked in that people outside the industry really ought to know? Starbucks corporate makes us have those recycling bins in the lobby to present this green image, but most of the time all of the garbage ends up going to the dump anyway because the facility doesn't have recycling. The only place I ever worked that actually sent crap to get recycled is when I had a temp job at a community college. At stores, that magical back room where you can just go and pick up anything is actually a huge mess where things go missing all the time. If the system tells me I have one of something in stock, there's a good chance I'm giving up looking after a couple minutes because I don't believe it's accurate. Almost everyone in the TV and film industry is winging it. I know, I have Netflix. Businesses offer rebates rather than cash discounts because they know the odds of you going to the trouble of mailing in a rebate coupon are minimal. Then they don't pay the first time because they know the odds of you complaining about it are infinitesimal, but they usually will pay off if you complain. They underestimate how stubborn I am. Half of technical support going on in the background of major platforms is convincing the developers to care about the issue enough to fix it. Also, every platform that interacts in any way with Facebook hates Facebook. It's so freaking broken. I work with kids at a daycare and we see babies take their first steps sometimes, but we never tell the parents because we don't want them to feel bad about missing it. My kid got potty trained at preschool. I don't care what the heck else happened there. They potty trained my kid. The official policy for customer dissatisfaction at a particular Canadian coffee franchise I worked at was offer them free stuff until they stop complaining. Dude, That's most customer service nowadays. No one wants to spend the time or money dealing and paying a customer service rep to handle an irate customer. Just get them to shut up and keep moving so they can serve more people. The amount of toilet paper, random items, and bills used as bookmarks that are left in returned library books. Terrible and illegal things go on in every strip club. Owners only hire people for upper management who they have trusted for years because they all know this. Queensland. Cost of a legitimate brothel license. $$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$ returns, inspections and testing, cost of a strip club license, $. Maybe the cops show up once a year. Yeah, you can see where this goes. When renting a storage unit, you do not need to get the insurance they offer. Even if they say it's mandatory, it's illegal to force you to get insurance. Also, the rent will increase yearly, forever. My homeowner's insurance actually covers storage units. My agent told me that most policies do. Most subscription services will raise their prices over time because they expect you to just suck it up. This applies to phone bills, cable packages, internet service, insurance plans. Call up, politely complain about the price. Skip the canned "well, the price has gone up because inflation, rising costs, age, end of promotion," and continue to politely say it's too much. Your budget can't handle all your outgoings and you may need to drop service. Either you are speaking to someone who can reduce the price, or they can put you through to a person authorized to reduce the price. Being polite is key to this though, as you don't want to be stonewalled by a jaded agent or otherwise sent into a transfer loop to nowhere useful. Unable to afford the service, found a cheaper deal with a competitor, or questioning what you're really getting for the service works wonders. Demands. Declarations of long-term loyalty. Read exactly the reason the company can raise the price on you, and disregard for those handling your call will serve to waste your time. Special bonus. If at first you don't succeed, call back tomorrow. Chances are you will get a different agent who may have a different approach. There ain't a company of any great size where everyone in customer service will give exactly the same response and assistance. Edit. As some have pointed out, insurance with a capital I may not work out this way for you, but insurance cover can. YMMV. Funeral homes are businesses, and funeral directors will absolutely take advantage of grieving people. The most offensive to me are the cremation boxes. They're literally just big cardboard boxes, and should cost less than $100. But they also make really expensive boxes, and directors will say things like "grandma would be more comfortable in this." No, she won't, because she's dead. Some of these boxes reach $1,000, and of course are all just burned. A used car is priced based on what it will sell for, but the margin is calculated by how deep they are into it. So if a car was just traded in, and they haven't detailed it or advertised it yet, you can pay thousands less if you ask. And so car dealerships have reward systems based on numbers for the salesman and the dealer and management, so if you are there at the end of the month you can sometimes get a screaming good deal, because even at zero profit, the sale bumps them up to a big bonus. Can confirm. Had this happen at a dealer. Timing was just dumb luck on our part, but it was worth it. Mobile homes are cheaply made and mass produced by people making $9 an hour and don't give a crap if it's up to code or safe. Hundreds of people in a factory with little supervision, and the main goal is to get as many made as possible, with little care to protocol, codes and fire stopping. I got hired as a HUD admin. Ended up doing inspections so we could stop getting fined by the fire marshal, and the amount of crap that is overlooked and not cared about is infuriating. ETA. Mobile homes as in manufactured homes. Single wides, double wides, ECT. Anywhere from $50K up to $150K at this particular factory. It's hard for the employees to care when the plant manager doesn't. The more that roll out, the more money he makes. His idea was to roll as many out as possible, take a huge bonus, let the company eat the fines when the fire marshal caught something. They don't check every home, and if you got a house with the furnace not fire stopped, oh well. Other academics will steal your work for themselves and publish it under their name. Research assistant here. Today I caught the PhD student claim a strain in our database, one that I had constructed for a paper in which we share authorship. I not only changed his name back to mine, but told him I was doing so because I had made the strain. This crap happens all the time. The cooks do all the drugs and always have the best drugs too. In academia, you create content for privately owned journals like Science and Nature, but still you have to pay them. Also, scientists who review journals articles for the peer review process do it for free. If you don't participate in this process, you can't get papers, and if you don't have papers you don't get funding and subsequently starve and die. I don't know that this is a secret, but flight attendants and pilots don't get paid while boarding, deplaning, and delays. So when you're delayed and angry, so are we. We're not making money and still have to be there. I worked at a game store a couple years ago, and the lowest we could give for a trade-in was 10 cents. As everyone knows, when you trade a game in, you're getting way less than you paid, and way less than what it would be sold for. Well, for the Nintendo Wii systems, the way the pose was set up, if someone came to trade in the system itself without end controllers or cables, they would get 10 cents. Not quite a secret, but honestly it's worth just keeping your systems and playing with them again on 5 years when you miss the game. I recently sold my Xbox 360 after keeping it in my closet for quite a while. When I brought it into the store, the cashier told me the amount I would get from it would be the same whether or not I had the console. What they wanted was the power brick. The console itself had no value. At a hospital, the straight cash price discount for men in outpatient tests, MRI, CT, X-ray, ultrasound, labs, etc., can often be cheaper than using insurance and dealing with deductibles, co-pays, co-insurance, and on. I've seen tests billed for thousands of dollars to insurance cost a cash paying patient less than $400. It's insane. I'm just looking through the comments to find an employee of Big Glitter. I just wanna know. Daycare workers say rude things about your family, usually just the parents and not the kids. We also hear all your dirty secrets from your children. I've heard about parents using handcuffs on each other and wrestling naked just this past week. People always joke that most psychologists become psychologists because they are crazy. I've worked in close proximity to a bunch of forensic psychs for the last few years. It is true. Yeah, not gonna lie, the main reason I want to be a psych is because I want to be the person I needed when all my mental illnesses kicked in as a kid. I make super expensive stuff that is bought by several governments and some high-end consumer product manufacturers. One of the machines that every bit of product has to go through only works right if you stand there and poke at it with a stick. We don't even have a special stick. It's just a metal rod that fell off of another piece of equipment that we wrapped some tape around to make a handle. We always make the new guy do it, because it is super boring. I once took a field trip to a nuclear reactor used for imaging with radiation, and the reactor itself had a helium leak that was too expensive to fix. So there's just leaking helium forever, and they just replace a helium every so often. Seemed pretty janky for a legit nuclear reactor. In a call center, there are lines where management can listen to the customer while he/she is navigating the phone tree or waiting on hold. It's used for quality control. We hear every line of profanity, racist, sexist remark, and muttered expletive. Also, many live chat sessions allow the associate to see you typing in live time. A lot of horrible things get typed out, then redacted before pressing send. Engaging with customer service brings out the worst in people, especially when they think it's in private. Is this question covered by the Whistleblower Act? Asking for a friend. Number. Answering for a friend. Almost every registered nurse has what is called a blacklist of doctors she or he would not want even remotely near them should they need emergency services. People need to take better care and precaution of who they choose to accept as their doctor. This is so true. I can think of 3 doctors that I don't like on a personal level and 2 on a professional. Credit companies will raise your interest rate for no reason and wait for you to call and complain to get it lowered. Check your statements and review all notices that come with your bill. In the same vein, Comcast will randomly up your bill by a tiny amount. They expect people won't call and complain over 70 cents. But if they do it to enough people, then it's millions of dollars. Hotels are held together by more superglue and duct tape than you know. Doesn't matter how nice they are, unless you're talking about ultra rich type places. The comforters in hotel rooms almost never get washed. They are nasty. Comforters. I am a Romanian who has worked for a US military contractor. The DoD doesn't care about the price of the things the military is buying. I once sold a bag of 240 hex nuts for $9,000. It's not a typo, which I got for $25. The spending the DoD does is really as bad as you might have heard of. The more they spend, the better. It is actually scary how much money they throw away. I worked at a Dairy Queen when I was 16 and found roaches. I got fired because I was too slow when I was cleaning, when in reality I was actually scrubbing crap down because everyone else half-assed it. That being said, don't go to Dairy Queen. In an auto shop, what your mechanic tells you may not be in your best interest, but instead what is most convenient, and what is the least amount of work to do. Hospitals are not clean. The only really clean place in a hospital is the operating room. Other than that, the place is crawling with germs and whatever else has mutated on the floors and walls. Went to a nearby hospital for surgery and got fleas while I was there. So, no, they don't clean very well. Audiobook narrators are woefully underpaid. We are some of the only recording artists who do not receive royalties for our work. And in fact our wages went down by about 66% when Audible renegotiated the AFTRA contract 10 years ago. 66%. The rates have been going up incrementally since then, but narrators are still treated very poorly. Many of us now record our own work. In addition to being a narrator, I am also the director, engineer, and researcher on nearly every book I work on. But no credit is given to me other than for narration, and I have to fight to get more money than I would get for just narrating a book. In addition, narrators are expected to promote the books they've recorded themselves, despite the fact that we get no residuals. In other words, we don't get any of the revenue from the audiobook sales, just a flat fee up front. A while ago a very popular author wrote to me to congratulate me on the fact that the latest book of his that I'd narrated was the #1 best-selling audiobook on Audible. Thanks, I said, but that means nothing to me because I don't get a dime from sales. He was shocked. Narrating audiobooks is often difficult and usually tedious work that requires an exhausting amount of focus. The industry continues to grow in leaps and bounds. It is only fair that the co-creators of this work receive their just due. Huawei takes employees' pay for mistakes made. I had a company-wide corrective email sent to me with a picture of the guy that messed up, his team leader and the line manager, a description of what they did wrong, some security issue, like sharing a password if I remember correctly, as well as the fact that 1 month's pay has been taken from each of them. If you call customer service and the representative does a great job, and you want to compliment them, please ask for a supervisor specifically. If you say you want to make sure we're rewarded for good service, but don't explicitly say you want to talk to someone about it, we can't direct you to doing so. And when you talk to a supervisor for compliments, it really does help improve customer service. But those calls are more likely to be used for training new reps, and complimented reps get raises too. Everything is held together with duct tape and baling wire. Hermit crabs as pets is actually incredibly cruel because they rarely breed in captivity, so they have to be taken from the wild. Then they get their natural shells broken away from them so that they will be forced to adopt colorful man-made shells in hopes kids find them more attractive. Not to mention the fact that they can live for 30 years when taken care of, which is very rare. Same is true for a lot of aquatic type animals like goldfish. For some reason people don't view them as actual animals. Doctors spend so much time in their specific niche that they know jack crap about anything else. Same goes for programmers. We often try to hide it. Some bars actually task bartenders with stock rates of 104% minus 110%. This basically means that with every pour that should be 25 milliliters to 50 milliliters, they actually tell you to underpour on every drink to ensure we're actually making back stock on every purchase. This also means some bartenders are instructed to make more head on beers by swirling the glass or intentionally holding it so more head is produced, saving more stock. I started a job that told me this and quit the next day. Animator here. It's coming more and more to light lately, but big animation studios and game companies treat their employees like crap and pay them barely anything and expect them to work hard because of the love for the job. And they can get away with that because there are hundreds of thousands of other creatives who would be more than happy to deal with all of the BS just for a chance to work at a AAA studio. Really, it's not just animation though, the entire entertainment industry is this way. The clothes you find at an outlet, more often than not, are not cast-offs or overages from the regular store. There's a whole separate entity that designs and produces clothes at a lesser quality for outlet prices. When working on a patentable idea and propose construction, I was told don't over-engineer it, you want it to break sometime so they'll have to get a replacement. Naive me told him off, saying I'd rather do that because it's supposed to help people. I wonder how widespread his mindset was. Edit, since this blew up, it's for cosmetics and something that will have a new version produced pretty much every year-ish or so. It'll be improved on. I simply just don't design things to fail. If people prefer the original build, then so be it. I'm not going to force someone to use a new version if they don't have to. Everyone cheats on fuel economy and or emission tests. Volkswagen is just the latest to get caught. I work in a veta. If you check the resuscitate box on our form, we will absolutely do our best to resuscitate your pet. And I mean at least 15 minutes chest compressions, intubating and manual breathing, heat support and reviving drugs. It's an all hands on deck situation and we take it extremely seriously. That being said, I have never seen it do more than have a pet have a heartbeat and automatic breathing long enough for an owner to say goodbye. I have never seen an animal recover. Basically, you shouldn't check that resuscitate box. It doesn't do anything but let us fight for your pet's life and lose. I'm a DNR myself. I don't want to go through that, and I don't want the staff to go through another unsuccessful attempt. Like this video and this good boy will play you a nice song. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day, you magnificent people.